Well, Chris, thank you for joining us today. Much appreciated. I've had a chance to learn more about your story and more about your life over the last couple of decades here, and just continue to be fascinated by not only the accomplishments you had, but also the person that you are.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm always fascinated by people who have accomplished so much, and what's the first thing they think about when they wake up in the morning?
What's the first thing I think about when it's funny. I mean, ritual is a big part of what we do, right? And I actually, so as funny as it sounds, I drink like I drink a full mason jar of water by the first thing I wake up. So I think usually that's kind of what I'm thinking is it's I don't know that I have any profound thoughts. It's kind of getting the day started. I drink some water, I feed the dog, and kind of get going with my day. But yeah, I probably should have some profound thoughts, but I don't.
So we saw up there, you had an accident when you were in college. What were some of the first memories after the accident, or the first feelings you had when you realized the gravity of the situation?
So I was in a weird situation in that the doctor who told my parents and my brother did not have a great bedside manner. I never met this guy. At least I don't think I met this guy, but he came out and he said, your brother's broken his back. He'll never walk again. And that's it. And the guy turned and he left. He didn't console them. He didn't educate them. And my parents felt like they really wanted to protect me from the stigma of, hey, you're paralyzed, whatever that means. Because I think in some ways they wanted me to figure out what that meant, as opposed to somebody kind of beating me over the head with it. And that was a real gift that they gave me. So no, I don't remember anybody ever telling me that I was paralyzed. I kind of figured out what was going on as I was going through, but I also felt like I could recover and recover completely. And it's funny how the idea of recovering completely takes on a lot of different different looks along the way. Because initially it was kind of like you break your arm, it's in a cast, you take the cast off, everything's fine. And so the equivalent for me would have been, okay, well, this is what happened, and I walk out of here, and then I'm okay, and I go on with my life. And I think that it took a little bit longer to kind of come to the realization of like that if I could still have big dreams and I could still chase them down, I think that ultimately was what it meant to be alive. And so I'm getting around in a little bit different way, but still approaching life in the same way. And I think that really was the nature of recovery for me.
Yeah, you used the word recovery a few times. You went out skiing the same year after the skiing accident.
Yeah, it was 362 days after the accident. Yes, so yeah.
Going downhill fast again and doing all that. I mean, first time out there must have been exciting, but when did you think I can actually win a gold medal doing this?
I felt like I could before I started, which sounds really strange because I was really not very good at all. And I mean, you talk about that first time being exhilarating. There was nothing exhilarating about it. I just fell the whole time. I didn't make a turn the first day. And so no, there's not that wind in your hair kind of.
I had the wrong vision of you.
It wasn't wind in your hair, it was snow in your face, really, is what it came down to. So I think that when I finally got to that, it took me, so I started skiing again in the winter of 89, 90. And by 93 was actually the first time that I felt that I was good.
And you won a gold medal in 92?
94. So I won 2 silvers in 92. But by 93, I was like, okay, I'm actually doing this. So it took a lot of time. And I skied one summer in New Zealand for a month. So I skied more in the summer than most people ski in the winter. And it still took a long time. Yeah.
I want to drill down on something you just said. You had won 2 silver medals and you still didn't feel like you were good enough, or?
Yeah. I mean, I won 2 silver medals, but I felt like I was still, I mean, skiing, snowboarding, you're a snowboarder, right? It's about it's about a feeling. And I think that I hadn't really found that feeling until 93, where I felt like I was in command of what I was doing, like I was in charge, and I wasn't getting pushed all over the mountain by the mountain. I was kind of like, by 93, I felt like, okay, I kind of can dictate where I want to go and what I want to do and how I want to approach this. So yeah, it took a while.
Cool. So you're on the podium, national anthems playing, gold medals around your neck. What are you thinking about?
I think you think about the history. I mean, like, because it's one of those moments that you dream about, but at the same time, it's easy for me to remember myself as a little kid kind of having those dreams and not necessarily knowing what those dreams meant as a little kid, but still having the dreams based on what I saw on television or whatever. But all the people who came in contact, my parents, and waking up early on Saturday and Sunday mornings and driving to races and being there in the rain and, the blowing snow and these kinds of things. And the sacrifices that they made, and my coaches and the people who made an impression on me and my friends and the people, so you stand on the podium by yourself, but it's really, there are a whole lot of other people there. And that's what I was thinking about, were the people who are all part of it. That's where you start getting emotional. That's where it's like, oh, okay, they're playing the national anthem, but it's like all these people who helped me get there.
So aside from your parents and family, right, who was probably the most impactful mentor or coach you had?
Oh, I mean, great coaches all the way along. Two really, really kind of stick out. One was my very first coach, a guy named Rob Broadfoot, and he was my coach from the time I was 6 until I was 10. And as you might imagine, he was a guy in my eyes who could walk on water, kind of thing, and just the coolest. And he was in his 20s, but we called him by his first name, and it was like it was cool. Like this was we were buddies in addition to like being coach and athlete kind of thing. And his whole thinking was really about like helping you to kind of build your confidence too, and helping you to reinforce what you're doing well, and giving you some pointers about things that you could do differently. But at the same time, he was really good about that. He was like, yeah, there are a whole lot of people who can tell you bad things, but there aren't that many people who tell you the good things. And he was great that way. My college coach, a guy named Bart Bradford, was the guy who started me skiing in a monoski. He called me into his office early in the school year and said, hey, we want you to be on the ski team, and we want to get you a monoski, which at that time was about a $2,500 item. And we want you to continue on the team. And I thought, well, that sounds great. And I assumed he knew the progression that I would go through. I think I kind of thought, well, I'll just get out there and I'll just do it. Like, I'd ski raced for 15 years. I should know what I'm doing. It shouldn't be that hard. And I think I was a bit more of a liability than I anticipated. Maybe he anticipated it. But I learned it relatively quickly. But yeah, I took a lot of crashes.
So you go from being one of the most prolific or the most prolific Paralympic athlete, 5 gold medals.
5 gold medals, yeah.
6 silvers, 2 bronze.
2 bronze, exactly, yeah.
And now you're off to your next journey, which is Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
So you go from 60 miles an hour downhill to 2 miles an hour uphill.
Yeah, exactly. I felt like I rode a lot of chairlifts, I mean, I had a debt to repay. I had to go up, so no, a lot of it was the platform. I mean, I joined a group that I had no desire to join, right? I wasn't enticed by parking spaces that were closer to the supermarket or anything, I wasn't. And so it was but you become an advocate for that very same group. And I think that you become an advocate for that group in that, in a lot of ways, it's an invisible part of the population, because from the time we're little, we're taught not to stare at someone who looks different. And as a result, we're invisible in that respect. But at the same time, you become an advocate for sort of the human journey as well. I mean, we're all on this journey. We as human beings are going to struggle, right? I mean, it's just the nature of it. And those who are our models, our mentors, our our heroes are the ones who struggled better. I mean, we're huge fans of the underdog, right? But it's harder for us to want to be the underdog and to sort of recognize that, hey, yeah, we're all the underdog, really, is what it comes down to. We all get to be potentially the hero of our own journey. So it's a big part, like with my foundation, my foundation, One Revolution Foundation, our mission is to turn perception of disability upside down. And one of the ways that I want to approach it is I don't want to call attention to the differences. I don't want to tell people that they're wrong, because we harbor resentment if we're told that we're wrong, right? But the thing is, I want to find the ways that we're on that similar journey. And I think that when we recognize that we're on the similar journey, we start to recognize the way that we might do things and approach things differently, the things that we have to learn from other people. And so that's really my intention.
What's the biggest misconception, Chris?
I think the biggest misconception, and we make it in so many different ways, right? I mean, if you're talking about disability, but it's like, there are the 7 categories of marginalization. There are, and we as human beings get to judge people really quickly. And I think the biggest misconception is that we close ourselves to the idea of being surprised and being wowed by other people. I think that's the biggest thing that we should be open to, and that comes with the idea of the respect for all people. I mean, it really, sometimes it seems like people, oh, this is an important person and that's not an important person. It's like, oh, maybe you're not so right in that respect. I think that we really, because if we can let people surprise us, and I mean, think of the movies that we watch and things like that. There's so many different, like, those are the stories that I find most captivating, are the people that are the sort of unlikely heroes, but we find they're unlikely heroes in our everyday. They're not just on the screen.
Well, you talked about recovery a lot, and we all go through things, and we all have our own recovery for different things. And I really like how you brought that up. But hiking Kilimanjaro, that to me is something I want to really get in that brain. And why did you come to that decision of Mount Kilimanjaro? And then was there a time you wanted to quit when you were on the mountain, or a time of discouragement that you had to push through that you can share with us?
Yeah, so Kilimanjaro, in a lot of ways, I felt like as an athlete, I had a platform to stretch people's imagination, to force them to see me for the first time, to change the narrative from, oh, that's too bad, to what do you do? And, and if it's about what do you do, I think that's where we connect, right? We connect on our passions. We connect on the things that we say, oh, I love this, and it's like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. Well, tell me more about it. And so Kilimanjaro was an opportunity to regain that platform. We're all climbing a mountain. I mean, whether we want to admit it or not, we're all climbing a mountain every single day. And so in that respect, we look at it and go, okay, yeah, I understand it. I understand a man trying to climb a mountain, 19,340 foot mountain, right? So I think that coming back, it was about that platform. And then it was also just about telling the story too. When I did it, I felt like we had to tell the story, because if you don't tell the story, it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So that's where we did a documentary film on Kilimanjaro, and I really wanted to find a way to make that a human story, to make that a story that, and obviously I wasn't necessarily, I had a film team that was putting it together. They did a great job. Yeah.
But was there a time that the mountain didn't go your way and you were like, what? Why did I do this?
Yes, I was trying to remember. Yes. And was there a time that I wanted to quit? It took 2 years to get to the mountain. And during the 2 years that it took to get to the mountain, there were a lot of times that I thought about quitting, because this was 2008, 2009. It was not a good time to try to raise money. Yeah. And so, we originally had a contract at one point, and we were going to get it funded, and that company, as a result of what was going on in 2008, 2009, went out of business and was sold to a different group. They never signed another contract. We never got any money. And so that was when, I did a lot of things that I never had done. I was an individual sport athlete. I ski raced, I raced wheelchairs. I was a lone wolf, right? I was the one who was responsible for my success. I had help, I had coaches, I had teammates, et cetera, but going through that wand or going across that starting line, that was pretty much it. I was responsible for whatever I was going to do. So creating a team, managing a team, raising the money, paying the bills. There were a lot of times that I thought of quitting.
Before you even got there?
Before I got to the mountain. The time on the mountain really was the easiest time that I had. All I had to do was pedal for 6 to 10 hours a day. That was the easy part. Yeah, just keep pedaling. I didn't have to think about anything. And the hard part was that I was problem solving the whole time. So when you do long workouts, I think that like a long workout, especially when you're in shape, is kind of like the opposite of REM sleep, where REM sleep, your body's at rest and your mind is active. This is like your body's active and your mind is at rest. And there are times where you're doing a workout or going for a long run in the woods or something like that, and you go through, oh, I'm here. And I don't know how I ended up here. So your mind has been off. And that's one of the coolest things, especially when you really get fit. I never had that opportunity on the mountain because I felt like I was climbing it in like 18-inch increments and just getting from here to there and here to there and here to there. So that was the hard part, being an active thought a lot of the time. But the pedaling, I could stop whenever I wanted to. I just had to start again.
And how long did it take you from start to finish?
Took 6.5 days. 6.5 days up and then a day and a half down. So 8 days total.
And in the documentary, there's a point where you're a little frustrated. Do you want to kind of go into that? And then you make a statement that I think everyone here, it'll resonate with on a team, but go ahead.
So there was a point, spoiler alert here, there was a point where they had to carry me. My objective was to be the first unassisted paraplegic to summit Kilimanjaro. And in my mind, if I was the first unassisted paraplegic to summit Kilimanjaro, I could flip that paradigm on its head, right? And I can force people to see me and to see people like me for the first time. So as an athlete, that's an opportunity that you have. But then, there are people who might be coming in and interviewing with you guys or whatever, and it's like, can you see them for the first time? Can you see them not for, okay, these are the accommodations that we have to make? It's like, well, what are you bringing to the game? How are you going to make this a better company? And so looking at that, I thought that there were a lot of, and I've completely lost my train of thought here. What am I answering?
You were talking to a reporter and saying,
this is the hard part.
Yeah, you thought that no one had to help you, right?
Yes.
And then you make the statement of,
yep,
nobody climbs a mountain alone.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Nobody wins alone. Nobody, and I love that.
Well, it's actually a funny thing because I've watched the movie a few times, like 30 plus times or something like that. And this is actually the part where I start thinking, I need to talk to the editors. I think we need to speed it up here. And they're like, no, this is the dramatic part. Like this is it. But yeah, they had to carry me for 100 feet, which in my mind was abject failure. That the only way I was going to succeed was by being the first unassisted, paraplegic to make it to the summit of Kilimanjaro, to be like a Roger Bannister, or Chuck Yeager or one of these kinds of people, and force people to go, oh, what I thought was true isn't true. But yeah, the idea of no one climbing a mountain alone is really the biggest takeaway for me. You start off with the reason why you do things that are this hard are you learn things in absolute terms, right? It really is sort of a spiritual kind of religious sort of journey in a lot of ways, and you learn things in absolute terms. And that was the thing that I learned, was that nobody climbs a mountain alone. And I think we as Americans sort of have this John Wayne kind of thing, right? They're like, we've got to be able to do it all on our own, and if we're not, we're failures. And no, really the coming together as a team and the vulnerability and the sort of sacrificing yourself to the team was really the ultimate power that came out of it. And it's a lesson. And we learn we learn these lessons in the moment, and then we learn these lessons again probably as well.
Yeah. Well, that was Jason's question, but I stole it.
No, it's just fascinating that like you just such a gentle disposition, Chris, and such easy to talk to, but yet stone cold competitor. And having that mix, it's just, I think the perception of a competitor is oftentimes different than the actual outcome. Or the personality.
Right. Well, we hope we continue to grow as well, right, as human beings. And I think that, yeah, the competitor part is, I like to win. I mean, it's a big, and willing to work to win. But yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is, as human beings, part of my role right now is to tell the story. I mean, that's where I see my role, and in doing that, it means connecting with people, and I think that's part of it, is trying to figure out how we connect with people and how we understand and how we, it's not all just telling the story too, how we listen well. I mean, it's one of those. I studied acting at one point, and one of the profound things that came out of it was the guy who was the professor said the best actors are the best listeners. And you go, I thought it was just about my lines. I thought it was just when I got to show up and show off kind of thing. And it's like, no, it's about the listening, and it's about the understanding, and being in this point where you're doing an interview or doing a podcast or whatever. It's one of those that you really have to listen actively to be able to keep the conversation going. And it's one of the cooler things that I think that we get a chance to do, and probably something we should continue to develop more too.
And with all the success that you've had, how are you staying grounded in that perspective?
Oh, it's funny. Like, I mean, I ski all the time, and I can have the best run in the world and then go fall off the lift. So my humility is very much intact. It's really pretty easy, I think. But it's also, I think, a matter of, none of us want to grow old, and I think the older we get, the more we don't want to grow old, right? And that's about putting ourselves into positions that can be uncomfortable, about setting a goal that's a stretch, and telling other people that this is our goal. So not only are we held to it ourselves, but other people are holding us to it, and trying to figure out how we can do something that we never thought we could do. I wrote a children's book, and I did it for my wife's birthday. I gave it to my wife for her birthday. It's called "Is It Lonely to Be a Four-Leaf Clover?" And it's about a four-leaf clover that's hiding what makes it different until it meets a dandelion. And my wife's a big fan of dandelions, and I won't give you away the whole. You'll have to contact me, and we can get you a copy of it. But I had to learn how to draw in order to illustrate this book, and it was one of the coolest things that I've done, because I always thought that drawing was something that either you could or you couldn't do it. And so I read a book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, and really her thesis was that you have the dexterity to write your name, you have the dexterity to draw. It's not about the dexterity, it's about the way that you see. And so you want to get from that judging left side of the brain to the spatial and intuitive side on the right side. And that was one of the coolest experiences that I've had. And I think that the more we get to learn something new, and I certainly can't say that I'm a master. I'd love to. My goal is at some point I'd like my mistakes to actually be intentional. Right now they're just mistakes.
That's a big goal. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, I think that being able to see something differently and being able to do something that we didn't think we could do, it connects with our minds and reminds us that it's not just about perfecting this little thing. I mean, there's some quote, it's probably just by an anonymous person, that the definition of an expert is someone who knows more and more about less and less, which is really the definition of growing older too. Like, we know more and more about less and less, and trying to increase that breadth and stretch out. And I mean, after learning to draw, I went to a painting class, and it took me, I think, 20 minutes to actually make a mark on my canvas, because I was completely overwhelmed. But there's something good in that. I think that keeps your humility too, it reinforces your confidence in keeping your humility at the same time.
So before the skiing accident in college, did you push boundaries and big goals as well? Or do you think that was a catalyst to just remove limits and say, I want to draw, I want to run the Boston Marathon, I want to win a gold medal in winter and summer and Kilimanjaro? And did you have this ability to just push the limits before then, or is this something that in your recovery you went hard?
I think I did. It's funny because these are some of those questions that I think I can say no, and then my mother would say, yes, you did. It's like I saw what was going on, but I mean, like for me, when I went to college, it was going to be the end of my ski racing career, and I wanted to see how good I could be. So really, it was about setting those kinds of goals, and those goals that scared me, and those goals that were going to force me to figure out how good and how strong I could really be and tap into that power. I mean, I think we all kind of feel like we have that power, but it's not necessarily tapped into. We haven't found a way to tap into it. And so yeah, and the experience in the hospital reinforced that, because I felt like in the hospital I was more powerful. As paradoxical as it sounds, I was more powerful than I'd ever been. And I think I was more powerful in that I was able to see solutions in really difficult times, and I was able to stay in the fight and to be in the muck of it, and not to get caught up with, oh, I'm only good if I'm above it all and I can stay out of the muck. It's like, no, you're in it. And I saw that power in my parents as well, just in the hospital, where they didn't know. They'd never experienced this. Nobody had any answers for us. And their feeling was, we will handle whatever comes our way. And to me, that's real strength and power, is just knowing that. And yeah, so try to follow in their footsteps, you know.
What's next for Chris?
I'm trying to figure it out right now. It's kind of interesting. It's it's been really fun working with Symetra. It gives me an opportunity to talk a lot, to speak a lot, and to meet a lot of different people and talk to people. That's been great and a growth. I feel like writing is something that I've enjoyed doing, but also one of those that, it's sort of similar to this whole theme of the, getting those English papers back, just sort of dripping with red ink kind of thing, and thinking, okay, I might not be that good at this, but it's something I've always wanted to do. And I've written a couple of books. I wrote one that was based on I wrote the children's book that we've talked about, and then one that was based on a commencement address that I gave at Middlebury in 2011. And that is not the transcript of the speech, which would have made my life easier. It's sort of inspired by the speech and a series of anecdotes, and that's called Things I Want to Remember, Not to Forget. And like we talked about a little bit earlier, sometimes we learn lessons and then we have to learn them again. And so this is a reference point. But yeah, I'd like to I'm kind of playing with the idea of what's next. And I think there's going to be a writing project, and I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be. So I'll get back to you on that.
Please do. We'd love to learn more about it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Tune in next week to hear from economist Danny Court. This should be a very interesting conversation. This is the TMG People First Podcast. See you next week.